We do have quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay?
That's good.
Very good. I call this meeting to order. Can everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. The first part of this meeting is an official public hearing, which is to present the 2024-25 school budget and referendum, and then to provide the public a formal opportunity to comment and respond. With that, I invite Mrs. Wetmore Chase up to make the presentation.
Oops, sorry, Ken.
Good evening, everyone. We're talking about our budget for the 2024-25 school year. In budgeting, our purpose is to carry out the district's mission, which includes student engagement, innovation and personally relevant learning, cultural competence, and ensuring equity and opportunities and outcomes, self-directed and informed learners, demonstrating the importance of school and community partnerships. We emphasize that fiscal responsibility is everybody's responsibility and exercised by all employees. So our objectives include strategic budgeting, which is what we call from a future present perspective, which is basically envisioning yourself in the future and what does it look like then, and how do we create our resources and planning to get there. Equitable resource allocation provides a variety of dynamic learning environments across all of our buildings, and structure and predictability, which is providing solutions that lend to organizational efficiency and effectiveness. We assess student needs through an equity lens. You've probably seen this before. We provide an environment where the classroom experience is more relevant for all learners. We ask, how can we be more responsive to emerging changes and cultural shifts? And how do we make sure all students succeed in realizing their full potential? We also use the Shenendehowa learning framework that shapes our instructional programs. Again, you probably have seen this before, but at the center of everything we do is our students and our why. This helps us assess our curriculum and what students learn, helps us to evaluate the instructional process and how students learn, and also utilizing assessments to tell us how well students learn. We assess multiple scenarios as we put the budget together. People come up with a lot of ideas, and first and foremost, we want to make sure we preserve our quality programs. Secondly, we also evaluate what programs are working well and providing, I'll say, a return, if you will, and those that really aren't adding anything to the educational process that's measurable or noteworthy. And then, of course, we also look at making sure our budgets can be sustained from year to year so that we're not creating any structural deficits that we can afford one year but not the next year or 2 years down the road. We also take a multi-year approach. We look at the trends of prior years. And fortunately, we have enough people here that we have a lot of history to look back on. And then we also look forward. We do a 3-year forecast. I actually do a 5-year forecast and beyond, just to kind of see where things are headed with some of the known factors that we will have. We also take into consideration our mandated contractual responsibilities. Health insurance is at the top of the list. We're anticipating a 10% rate increase and hoping for less. But as we all know, healthcare costs just continue to rise. Retirement and pension costs, we're anticipating the ranges that each of the retirement systems provided to us. In both cases, we expect them to go up. Teachers' retirement system going from 9.75 to 10.11%. I just looked that up today. So 10.11 is where we're at the moment. And ERS, employees' retirement system rates, are going from 13.1% to 15.2%. And that's a percentage of salaries that the district is required to pay on behalf of all of our staff members. We also have to plan for some of the unknowns, like negotiations. When we put our budget together, we have not, at this point, settled our administrator's contract and our supervisor's contract. So we had to make some assumptions there, planning for some unknowns. We plan for our instructional investments and plan such that service follow needs is kind of our mantra, particularly when it comes to special education, English as a new language, universal screening, and AIS services. Program expansion, as I said, is viewed through the Shen Learning Framework. We look at enrollments a lot. Maximizing space and scheduling is certainly one of the factors that we have to take into consideration, and where people are living and where those enrollments are going to take place. We also have to take into consideration standards that are coming down the pipe. There's a new science curriculum through 2026 that will be rolling out. And operationally speaking, we looked at several enhancements. One is based on the safety audit that we had done. We had an independent contractor come in and really do a very thorough safety audit throughout the district. He provided a lot of recommendations and ideas for us. Some are easy to put in place, some are not so easy to put in place. So we're chipping away at that list in this budget. We also are providing for additional cybersecurity. It seems like we can't enhance that enough, but we are including some capacity to do that. We've also provided some capacity to take on some of the transportation costs of field trips this next year. And we know that with our inability to have enough bus drivers, sometimes we can accommodate a field trip and the cost is reasonable. Sometimes we can't accommodate a field trip and we have to go with a private bus. That's when costs kind of seem to spike. So we're trying to sort of make that an even playing field for everybody this next year. We look at debt service, again, trying to smooth out our debt service schedule so that no particular year has a spike in costs. We really utilize our debt service fund to try to even out our payments each year and have a similar impact on the budget year to year. We've also provided for opportunities in our budgets to include esports, which is kind of a gaming type of activity. We provided for some additional district ECA units and some additional athletic programs. We always take into consideration some of the breakage that we have when our teachers retire, and that's because the difference between a step 1 teacher and a step 24 teacher that's retiring is about $56,000 this next year. So with 18 retirements, we expect to have some flexibility of $852,000, and you can see where those retirements are occurring in this next year. So we do budget for the replacements of those folks at a lower step. We looked at federal funds and what's brought back into the general fund this year. We've had federal funds for the last 3 years or so. And with that, we were very strategic in not creating a funding cliff, meaning that when all the stuff comes back into the general fund budget, we're not having to lay off people, we're not cutting items out of the budget, we're not cutting program. It was a very thoughtful approach in adding items to the federal funds, and we have about 6.4 FTEs coming back into the general fund, which we had planned for and provided that flexibility throughout this time. With some of our strategic additions, we're looking at, again, service follow needs, and this year we're anticipating adding about 4.6 FTEs in the area of AIS, English as a new language, ELA, and math. And on the special education side of the program, we're adding about 15 FTEs as we're expecting a large influx of students this next year, thanks to our tremendous special education program. We also looked at enrollment-driven demands. We're adding about 1.7 FTEs there. And some of these instructional programs we just kind of talked about. I think we failed to mention the competition code. We're adding some additional funds there to provide more opportunities for students. Again, operational enhancements. We talked about field trip transportation. We're planning to add campus security to the tune of 1.0 FTE. 3 part-time monitors at the middle school level, web content manager, 1.0 FTE. We've talked about the safety coordinator potential position and potential purchase of prefab building for CTE and robotics, although that was kind of predicated on the New York State budget, and not quite sure we're there yet. Thanks to Matt Davis, we were able to get approved for a RECOVS grant. This really targets the mental health program for our students. And in this grant program, we're looking to add about 4 FTEs. And again, those will need to come into our budget next year, or I should say when this grant expires. It's more or less seed money to get us where we need to be going in the future for mental health services. As we look at the proposed budget summary, we start with the 23-24 year, 206 million. Our operational net additions, these are all those contractual things that we don't have control over, about 8.2 million. Our strategic net additions are all those things we purposely added for all the reasons we just spoke about. And we reclassified the federal funds, basically things like Title I, Title IV, the special education grants. We are able to utilize about 2.3 million in federal funds to reclassify salaries and other things out of the general fund, which we do every year, but I don't think we've ever really summarized it in any way. So our proposed budget for 2024-25 is 213 million. It's an increase of 7.1 million, or about 3.47%. The next few slides basically looks at the various expenditure categories and the percentage of budget that each one represents. You'll see the first 3 items are salaries between instructional, administrative, and non-instructional. That's about 54% of our budget, not surprising. We have equipment and contractual listed there as well. And on the next page, you'll see benefits is 26.3%. So in total, staffing and benefits is just over 80% of our budget, which is not surprising, but is a good data point to have. Our next slide represents the three-part budget analysis. This is a categorization that SED requires us to provide to the taxpayers. Administrative, programmatic, and capital portions of the budget. As you can see from year to year, we're extremely stable. And again, not surprising, program is the largest percent, almost 80% again of our budget. Our budget increases, just to provide a 5-year trend, our average is about 3.77%, so we are just under that average this year at 3.4%. The revenue analysis, again, you'll see to the right is the percentage of the budget in total, property taxes at, and all of its interest and penalties, the things associated with that, represents about 66% of our budget, and it is the largest source of our funding. The next largest source of our funding is state aid. That's about 31%. And going to the next slide, the third largest piece is our recurring appropriated fund balance that we keep stable every year. So among all those things, that's about 98-point-something% of our total budget. So the other items are listed, but you know, you can see how much the other items really contribute to the total. Our tax cap versus our levied amount. Our tax cap, which is that long formula, the 2% tax cap, that's not really 2%. This year, our tax cap allowance is 2.97%, and our actual projected levy is 2.83%. So we're about 14 points below the tax cap allowance, which is a difference of about 195,000, and as I said, 14 points below. As we look at the actual tax rate implications, this shows by town what the actual tax rates for 23-24 were versus what we project for 24-25. And while it looks like it's totally unequal across all of the towns, you will see the percentage difference to the far right-hand column is about the same, 0.79%, roughly 0.8% in that range. So that means our tax rates are expected to go up under 1%, and by the time we typically add up all of our taxable assessed value, it's likely to be lower than that. I'm not going to promise that, but past history has shown that it'll likely be less than 1%, or less than even this percentage. To kind of give a comparison, this is based on full value, which some people think of as market value. For 300,000 full value assessed property, we expect that the tax bill will go up about $30 this next year. So once you include the equalization rates, the actual annual full value rate is about the same for everyone. We also included a bus replacement proposal in our referendum, and every year we plan to replace about 1/10 of our buses. We have about 200 buses, and we've managed to keep them in good running order between 10 and 12 years. Fortunately, our Director of Transportation has kind of increased the life expectancy of our buses by making sure we stay on top of maintenance, and really using a lot of data to manage the whole fleet. So this year we're expecting to replace 23 buses. This is significantly different from last year. As you noticed, last year we replaced 9 buses, and that's because we had 4 electric buses in the mix last year. They are significantly more expensive than our regular buses, and we're still waiting for those buses to be built. But in order to take advantage of all of the grant funding opportunities, that process has to take place in a very strict order. So Director of Transportation, Al Karam, is following all of those rules to the T. And, we're on track to move forward with that, with infrastructure as well as the building and the receiver buses. Again, you might wonder why there's no e-buses in this cycle. The time frame that it takes to build the infrastructure, get the buses built and get them on site is a lengthy process. You can see some of the costs that it requires, both in the short term to power 84 buses and the long term to power the rest of the fleet. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. Probably a separate referendum for that particular purchase, and probably a 3 to 5 year time frame to complete. Again, this shows the itemization of the 23 buses with a total not to exceed $3.6 million. Our board candidates, we have 2 seats that are expiring at the end of this year. Jason DiCiani and Stacy Flom. We have 3 candidates running, Joe DeGone, and Joe's here, Carla Thompson, here, and Mary Colleen Bird, which I don't think she's here either. Just wanted to recognize them that they were. So key dates, board adopted the budget on April 9th. Hearing is tonight, May 7th. Budget vote is 2 weeks from today, May 21st. We have those 3 propositions, as I mentioned, the 2 board seats, transportation, referendum, and budget. Polls open at 7 o'clock in the morning and close at 9 o'clock at night. It will be in the Guana Middle School gym. If you are a U.S. citizen, 18 years old or older, and have been a district resident for at least 30 years prior to the vote. I'm sorry?
30 days.
30 days, did I say years? Sorry. Okay, 30 days prior to the vote. Then you are allowed to vote in the district's election. There's no pre-registration required in our district, but personal identification with a photo is required at the time that you sign in to vote. We also have absentee ballots, so if you can't get to the polls, you could contact the district clerk's office. Absentee ballots, just so you know, are mailed to any resident who's certified by the county as disabled. So if any taxpayers have not received one, by all means call the district clerk's office and we will provide you one. But ballots have to be returned to the district clerk no later than 5 p.m. on the date of the budget vote, which is May 21st. And final analysis, our budget provides preservation of school programs and services, key enhancements, and keeps the tax implications to a minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to move into the public comment period. This period is an opportunity for the public to comment on the budget and the transportation referendum only. There will be an opportunity later for other public comments. The board asks that each speaker be as succinct as possible and that remarks be limited to a few minutes if possible. If not, that's fine too. In an effort to ensure the widest number of community viewpoints are heard, the board asks that groups or the public to withhold comment if their viewpoints are already being presented. So at this point, I will ask, is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on our budget and or transportation referendum? Seeing no one approach the podium, I'm going to officially close the public hearing. And I'm going to officially open the business meeting. Move on into that. So with that, I just have 4 announcements to say that board member Stacy Flom, and Gusta Miller cannot be here tonight, and also our board student rep from the SDA, Jackson It's, sorry, okay. Thank you. Also cannot be here tonight. With that, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's business meeting? First is Petra, second is Tom. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. And we're going to move into Board of Education comments, which we have during our business meetings. I'll start with Deanna.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I just, every now and again, I just want to remind everybody, and I don't think I need to do this often, but when I see things go awry, I just feel like I need to do that. So, just a reminder, we're all one of 7 board members. If any of us have issues or we feel we need to bring things forward, we have a leadership team to do that. As we found in earlier when we were coming and you're coming on to the board, we have an orientation. We go through that, we go through communication, we talk about platforms and using our board seat as a platform, and we're really encouraged not to do that, right? We're really encouraged to use the leadership that we have to move our issues forward. Nobody likes to be blindsided. We talk about that. That's actually a topic when we meet in orientation, right? Especially the district. None of us like to be blindsided here. I wouldn't want to be blindsided in my professional career, and I'm sure the superintendent wouldn't ever want to be blindsided. So it's just an APA tonight. Just some things that I've noticed. We should have respect for our teams that we have here and we put in place, and the process that we should be following, all of us. Again, we're only as good as the 7 members that sit here. So we are 1 of 7. None of us can make a decision on our own or take our message out there on our own. Thanks, Amy.
Okay, thank you. Tom.
I just wanted to say, I'm always amazed at how well Shen develops budgets and how essentially every year they're flat. This is another year where there's less than 1% increase. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful, frankly, a bargain for the community. And I think that this is a thoughtful budget that enhances programming and that builds upon and actually adds some excellent programming as well. So my hope is that people will show up. I'm not the only one that's going to say it, but my hope is that people will show up and not take for granted this excellent budget. And all appreciation to Dr. Robinson and to his team for developing this.
Thank you. Petra.
I agree. I think especially this election season or voting season, I have a feeling that not many people are going to come to vote. There's not a whole lot of interesting items or objective items on the agenda, and I think everyone just assumes that everything's going to go through. So I definitely encourage you to vote. If you have 18-year-olds in the house, I definitely encourage them to vote because this might be their first voting experience, and that is fantastic. We have a chance to talk about other matters later.
Yes.
Before the meeting, right?
Yes, you mean for the good of the order, or?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Of course. Thanks. Jason?
I will also encourage everyone to vote. I think it's true when things are going well and pretty quiet and we don't have controversy, things just float by, and generally that's okay, but it is important to show out and show your support. And I would also say going out voting and just showing your support also tells the board and the district leadership that you like the job they're doing and the investments they're making, the decisions they're making. So if you want to see more of the same, let us know you want to see more of the same. It gives us a sense of confidence as we go into the next budget planning session, keep doing what we're doing. So do that. Thanks.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not recognize that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And so shout out to all of our teachers for their passion for public education. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice now. Shaping the minds of our students. It's such an important responsibility and role. And also thank everyone and with staff as well for focusing on public education and making it what it is for our students. So I wanted to definitely mention that. I also wanted to give a shout out, I know this is early, but I wanted to mention this now. We have some other things that I also want to cover in the good order. To thank PTA Council for holding the candidates forum last night so that we had an opportunity to hear from the 3 candidates. And also, I really can't say enough for this, CAP Teens for hosting at the Copeland Park Affluent Public Library the real talk about vaping. That was powerful. I know that Dr. Robinson and Dr. Wilson Turner, Mrs. Carmen and others were there, also Mr. Gastiani. I got there towards the end to listen to the question and answer, but really powerful, and I'm hoping that we see more programs like that. So thank you for, also thank our students for their part in making that possible. So with that, I'm gonna move on to, I don't see our student rep here, I don't see Glennis, I wanna make sure that she is sick tonight, okay. So now I'm gonna move to residents that would like to make a public comment. Before I read this, do we have residents here that would like to? We do, okay. So I have to read this statement, okay, it'll be good. This is an opportunity for residents to address the Board of Education. The board reminds residents that the public comment portion of our meeting is only one item on a long agenda. We therefore ask that each speaker be as succinct as possible and their remarks be limited to 2 or 3 minutes in an effort to ensure that the widest number of community viewpoints are heard. Sorry, I just lost my spot. The board asks that members or groups or the public to withhold comment if their viewpoints have already been presented. I ask that when you come forward to please state your name and your address. So, do we have any members from the community that wishes to please?
Hi, my name is Darlene McGraw. I watched the video last night. I got a little frazzled because when I watched the video, I myself, as a person with a disability, I like to use closed caption because it helps me better understand things. And if we have community events and if you guys have stuff going on here with the school district, if somebody can't hear something, closed caption definitely helps. So I would appreciate if you guys, when you have public events going on within the school district, it really should have closed caption. That's a very easy way to stay compliant with the law. I am not an attorney, consult your attorney with that. But the other thing is too, last time when I tried voting for one of the Board of Education voting things last time, I was completely frazzled. And I was more upset than anything because I just was in a car accident not too long from there. I had a concussion and I was having trouble reading stuff on paper. So I wanted to use an accessible polling site, which I have complete right to do, and anybody does. But when I went to the middle school to do this, they wouldn't let me. And then the only way I could vote is have somebody write it down for me. I did not have a place where I could write a private vote for myself, which that was totally wrong. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. To get on a more positive note, because your school district has very good teaching lessons. This school district had a student that learned in health class what to do when somebody had a seizure. I am very open with my condition, and because that student knew what to do, he took it on when he was working at a job that I was at. And he saved my life and saved me from getting injured because he knew what to do when I had a seizure and helped me. So I really appreciate the board and the schools here to do that. And the other thing is too, I really enjoyed it when I made a promise that I would go to a football game. I thought it was gonna be here at Shen, so I'm like, yeah, that's easy. After I go to work, go down the street, go watch a football game. Well, I didn't know that when I made that promise, it wasn't here at Shen. I had to go down to Shaker High School to watch it. So I biked all the way from Ocean State Job Lot all the way down to Shaker High School. Like, I made a promise, so I can't go back and back down on my promise. But, you know, made it all worth it because our school district, our football players won. So there's on the better note. So thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McGraw. And we will make a note of that. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment during this time?
I had a question, but I don't know if it's going to be brought up during the water testing overview. So I think that there's a public comment section at the end.
There is.
Okay.
There is.
So I'll wait.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, with that, I will close the first public comment section and I'll move on to our superintendent's report.
So typically the board does, I respond to public comments. What Darlene didn't fail to mention is that Darlene and I have a date. Shen CBA, September 27th. Darlene expressed some of these views to me via email, and I was very appreciative of it. And so you know, we'll make sure that Darlene, the biggest games are going to be the Shen home games, and so we have a date on the sideline, so she'll be my guest for that date. The second piece that, good point that she made in terms of closed captioning, and I spoke to Kelly actually this morning, and on our YouTube channel, there is a closed caption feature that we will pull out and highlight so people who need it can be able to access it. And again, in some cases, this case, the event was, she was referring to as the Meet the Candidates Night event, and we happened out of courtesy live streamed it for them. So we'll certainly look to do that because your point is well taken. And we are in fact in the process of researching, and we'll have more answers in terms of what other accommodation we can provide at the polling place so any voter can feel as if he or she has the same privacy entitlements that everyone has. So again, I really want to emphasize those points. So thank you for bringing those points to our attention, because I think it was 5 o'clock this morning when I emailed you something like that, and she responded right away. So I thought I was the only person up in the world that was ever heard doing emails. So thank you for that. And so before we go into the presentations, just 2 positive things. We'll start off 2 very positive presentations. And I'll do the first, and I think Mrs. Hoffman has a second one. So board members here at Shen over the years have engaged in a wide variety of programming through New York State School Boards Association. And each year, based on people's involvement, there's a certificate and, in this case, a plaque given. And so I'm just going to read the correspondence. I would like to congratulate you, Naomi Hoffman, for earning a Level 4 Lifetime Achievement Award under the NYSBA Board Excellence Recognition Program. This is NYSBA's highest award level in the program and qualifies you for the following: certificate for free registration to our annual convention and expo, so that saves the district some money. Certificate of recognition, so here's that for that. Certificate of recognition and a commemorative plaque, as well as an executive pin set. This program is designed to acknowledge school board members who strive to continue to expand their governance knowledge and skills. It is comprised of 4 achievement levels that are reached by accumulating points for participating in NYSBA training, workshops, events, and activities, as well as for taking board-related roles such as board president and NYSBA's advocacy liaison. Please note that the annual cut-off date for point accumulation is March 31st. And again, if you want to learn more about this, I would encourage board members to go to the NYSBA Recognition Program site on the website. So on behalf of Patrick Longo, who's a member relations manager, I would like to present this to you. So congratulations. All the goodies, all the swag.
Yes. This is very exciting. Now I want to look at the plaque.
Do you want to do that one?
Yes, I'm going to do the, oh, sorry, okay, yes. So we have one more to recognize, and I will do the honor for this board member. I'd like to congratulate Petra Holden for earning a Level 1 Board Achievement Award under the NYSBA Board Excellence Recognition Program. At this level, you qualify for a certificate of recognition, which I have here. This program is designed to acknowledge school board members who strive to continually expand their governance knowledge and skills. It's comprised of 4 achievement levels that are reached by accumulating points for participating in NYSBA training, workshops, events, and activities, as well as taking on board-related roles such as the NYSBA advocacy liaison role that you have done so well at. So thank you for that. So I present this to you, Petra, and thank you.
I guess I didn't slack it.
Congratulations.
I'll continue.
Yes, please.
So thank you very much and congratulations, Mrs. Holden and Mrs. Hoffman. Certainly, I think your recognition is symbolic of this board's commitment to continuous learning and improvement, so I appreciate that very much. as superintendent, to work with you and go to conferences, as well. So at this point, I would like to actually, ask Dr. Wilson-Turner to come forward. As you see, we have, several presentations tonight. The first one will be the CTE course accreditation overview, which she'll discuss. Following that, Mrs. Carmen will come and, talk about first reading some policies, for the board and for the public to engage. And then we'll have I put on here water testing overview of our process, and I'll introduce those individuals when we get to that point. And we also have board meeting dates. Believe it or not, and it's always scary for me when I sit in my office and plot out the entire next year already, and thinking like, wow, how quickly the time flies. And so we have those board meeting dates. I'm asking the board to review them. If there are some significant conflicts that we did not recognize, we try to keep a pattern and sequence. So I won't necessarily walk through them tonight, just gonna share them with you. So at the next meeting, we'll look to adopt those because we need those dates to start other processes running as well. And then we'll end with an overview of the NISBA resolution process, since that's coming up as well. So at this point, Ms. Dr. Wilson-Turner.
Thank you. Good evening. So this evening, we have Rose Barra, our Academic Administrator for Business, CTE, and FACS, who will come and provide an overview of the reapproval process for our 4 enhanced graduation credential options for our high school students. These CTE pathways were originally approved in 2019 and must be reviewed with external partners and submitted to the New York State Education Department for reapproval by June 30th, 2024. I had the opportunity to sit in for a portion of the external review, and am very appreciative of the partners who came forward to work with our teachers to make sure that our programs are representative of what the fields need today. And so we heard lots of appreciation as well as meaningful feedback that Rose will be able to take us through this evening. So we are thankful for this opportunity, and later you will see a resolution for consideration around the approval process. Thank you. That's all.
Rose, do you want to drive?
Sure.
Thank you, board members, for allowing me to come tonight to share what is part of a very long agenda. I appreciate it. It was 2019 when the New York State Education Department approved 4 programs for Shenendehowa's CTE, Career and Technical Education. The first one is Entrepreneurship. We have Child and Family Studies, Building Sciences, and Transportation. As part of the review process for reapproval, it's been a long year of making sure we're analyzing data, taking a look at what those programs provide, and providing opportunities to enhance them in a way that provides more access to more students. So tonight I just want to briefly kind of go through the what and the why, talk a little bit about CTE programs in general, drill down a little bit deeper and talk about our current programs, some of the suggestions for changes by our internal review committees and our external review committees. So before we go on, I just want to call your attention to the right-hand side of this slide, the Career and Technical Endorsement Seal. This is a seal that will appear on the student's diploma who completes the program. Recently, thank you to the support of High School Principal Ron Agustinoni, we have decided on a local level to also provide those students with a medal that has a seal on it. So the real why do we have these programs? And it's all about opportunities. We want to make sure that more students have opportunities to go from high school to career, high school to trade unions to career, high school to trade school, 2-year college, 4-year college, career. And these programs are designed to help flow the choices of curriculum by the students in order to better prepare them for the workforce landscape. Part of the review process involves taking a look at what our local New York State Department of Labor is saying about the workforce projections. And just as a baseline, anything above 7% is considered significant. And so the first thing that we took a look at when we looked at the projection data from 2020 to 2030 is that we're on the right track with the programs we have in place. There are careers in the horizon in the business and financial area. in child family studies and early education, and also in automotive and in construction. I don't know if this works on the screen, no. I also want to call your attention to other areas. The healthcare is considered to grow 20% by 2030, and manufacturing. These are two areas where many of our external review members have suggested we start to consider new CTE programs that cover helper careers, careers in social care, social work, that go beyond what happens with early childhood, because all levels of the human experience is in need of care at some point in their lives. Manufacturing is increasing in our region at the advanced manufacturing level, and more people are asking us to consider a manufacturing CTE program. The next few slides just kind of highlight the graduation pathway that our students go through to attain a Regents diploma and how these programs fit in. I want to call your attention, and the laser doesn't work on this kind of screen, down at the bottom where it says electives 3.5. Those are the 3.5 credits that we can kind of play with, tailor, design to fit the current workforce landscape and future workforce landscape, aligned to current standards, aligned to student interest. New York State has implemented a number of flexible pathways to graduation. Completing one of these pathways is a way to graduation. If a student completes and passes one Regents in each of the core areas and completes the components of a pathway, they will have met the requirements for a Regents diploma. This is drilled down a little bit deeper at some of the requirements that New York State Education is asking all CTE programs to include. A 3 to 5 CTE course, and also the passing of a 3-part technical assessment. The technical assessment has a written component, it has a process-based or performance-based component, and a cumulative portfolio as part of the requirements. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend a workforce development conference at Hudson Valley Community College. One of the industry leaders made a comment that really rang with me. They said, "We would love to hire students right out of high school. We are ready to train them. What we're looking for now is students that come to us and to bring other things with them besides their Regents diploma." Participation in these programs does provide those credentials or micro-certificates that a student can share with their employers. The first one, an employability profile, is something that's completed as the students complete this program. It is a checklist of the various skills, both content-based skills and work-based and soft skills that a student has attained through the participation in these programs. Additionally, the precision exams are the New York State approved exams that we can administer as part of the technical assessment. When a student passes the written assessment, they are given a certificate that demonstrates all of the standards that they met based on the assessment results. And additionally, the students can bring their portfolio with them as they move forward. The bullet about CDOS is important because there may be students that are on a pathway other than the Regents diploma towards their career development and occupation studies credential. The requirements for this credential are embedded within each one of our CTE programs. So in addition to the 3-part technical assessment and the courses that are part of the program, New York State is asking a lot more of us. Is asking more of us, quality of us. The CTE courses should be a meaningful learning strand of courses that, again, are aligned to current standards, workforce landscape, and student interest. We can't lose sight of academics. There has to be an integration between the math, the social studies, the ELA, and the science. All students have to take 1 semester of career and financial management. Our newer course, the Money Matters Financial Literacy course, qualifies as that course. All students participate in work-based learning. That could be building a 3-bedroom house, doing inspections on cars, working with our teachers at the elementary level, and participating in a CEIP, Career Exploration Internship Program. The last thing that New York State requires is at least 1 college-level course. And the interesting thing about that is while it's required, attaining the college credit isn't a requirement. It's more about providing exposure, opportunities for the students to gain confidence that, yes, I can take a college level course. So again, the 4 courses that were approved in 2019 are the Child and Family Studies, Entrepreneurship, Building Sciences, and Transportation Systems. This year, the teachers in each one of these departments met with me frequently, and we took a look at data to figure out the relevance of these programs. Should they continue as is? Are there changes that need to be made before we submit to the New York State Education Department for renewal? And so some of the changes that we are proposing is, first I'll go through the business, child, family studies, construction, and trans. In the business program, we recognized that it was very difficult to attain. When we took a look at the 2019 course overview, it required the students to take 4.5 units of electives in the business areas, which is very difficult for a student to attain. Number one, because our business program doesn't begin until 10th grade. And number two, because it's very difficult to double up if students are interested in music or other areas. The other thing we recognized when looking at the data is that the entrepreneurship programs tended to be pretty narrow in terms of the number of students that were interested in attaining this program. And they wanted to design a program that had more choice, more flexibility, and make it more general so that it's more accessible to more students. So we're shifting from entrepreneurship to a business management CTE program and changing the assessment as well so that that is also more attainable by more students. In the child and family studies, the change has to do with our college articulation. With the closing of the College of St. Rose, we are now working with, hopefully, SUNY Oneonta and getting an articulation agreement for 2 courses, our early childhood education course and our individuals with disabilities course. In construction, we found that the point that made it difficult for students to attain this CTE credential was our college articulated course. At the time we submitted this program, DDE, or Design and Drawing for Engineering, our RIT, Project Lead the Way course, was the college articulated course. That's not the typical pathway of a student that ends up in the construction capstone course. Most of those students take DDP, which already makes them ineligible for this credential. Fortunately, in the past couple of years with working with Hudson Valley Community College, our construction course is now a college and a high school course, CNST 130. So if they're in the construction course, that's also the college level course, and hopefully now that will increase the assessment or the attainment of more students in this program. For transportation, it was more about broadening our exposure to different types of vehicles. Where do electric vehicles fit? What about large engines? And fortunately, with Director Al Karam as part of our committee, we're going to strengthen our partnership with the district transportation department so that our students can go over there and gain some experience in large engines. This is a very humbling slide. We put forth 4 CTE programs at about the same time. We also experienced a global pandemic. We recognized it was very, very difficult to gain momentum amid and after the global pandemic. It's only until this year that we decided we're ready. We're going to rev up these programs. So think about that. We're revving up the programs and putting them in for reapproval in the same year. We got a lot of work done. Fortunately, with support from the district, we purchased the youth science assessments. These are the written assessments that the students can take as part of the 3-part technical assessments. And we decided to do something brave. Why not allow the students to take the tests in January? What do we have to lose? If they pass them, great, then they're free and they've attained everything they need except for finishing their portfolio. If they don't pass it, because we own the assessments, they'll have lots of other opportunities between January and June to pass those assessments. And we do have 3 completers. 2 students passed the Child and Family Studies assessment and 1 passed the Transportation Systems. Through the purchase we were able to purchase new equipment through the learning loss grants, which help supplement our programs as well. And so next year, if all goes well and New York State says that these programs are reapproved, we want to be much more intentional and make sure that counselors are aware of the sequence of courses so that students don't miss out in their 11th or 12th grade year on that Money Matters course, because that seems to be a block to completing these programs as well. April 10th, we invited several people from higher education and industry to join us to provide input on our programs and ask them to provide some feedback. We decided to have everybody in one big family meeting and then break off by each one of the program specifications. It was a wonderful experience. It was wonderful to hear the exchange between teachers and industry leaders. It was wonderful to hear the responses that we got from industry and the feedback that we got. It was also interesting, as I moved from group to group, to hear some commonalities in some of the feedback. The one thing that many of the industry leaders suggested is that we have more emphasis on soft skills. They're saying that our young employees that come into our workplace don't have really good communication skills, self-management skills, and financial management skills. The other thing that came up several times is the idea of data. Employees, regardless of their career path, will likely encounter data of some sort. The ability to understand data, manipulate data, visualize data, and analyze it is a part of many occupations. And the idea of credentialing came up over and over again. One suggestion that I want to explore further is, could our students in the early childhood education class be certified in the mandated reporting requirement that's required for their student teaching? So I'm looking into that now. So here we are. Between now and June 30th, there's still work to be done. All of the information that we gathered all year long has to be put into a two-part application for each one of these CTE programs. In addition to sharing the information with the Board of Education, I'll also be sharing it with our IPAC. And then, if all goes well and Dr. Robinson approves, the signature of the superintendent of schools is required before we send everything off to New York State Education Department. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say, thank you so much for this work. You know, because, well, you were at the CTE signing today. There is a clear need, and preparing our students for this is not only satisfying a need in the workforce, but also giving them options that they otherwise would not have. I was curious about the numbers. So it sounds like the numbers are low. We have lots of room to grow in all of these areas. Okay. It's really encouraging to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
And we'll be voting on that as an action.
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Carmen?
Good evening. The policies that are being presented to you tonight for first reading are policies that we reviewed in April's policy review meeting. Most really have no notable changes. The one change that we do have is with policy 8410, and that was a title change with the district calendar. We added "and school day" to that component. No.
It's a big change.
Don't be changing time.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dr. Robinson, we'll move on.
Sure. So our next presentation, as the board knows, we're in the process of completing water testing. So tonight we have Hillary Hofstein and Lisa DeLugo. Both Hillary and Lisa are with BOCES Risk Management. They can certainly talk about their roles a little bit more. But we contract with BOCES, have for a long time, as a part of making sure that we have experts on respective areas, particularly when it comes to risk management. So two ladies have been working very closely with Barb and Ned and other folks in our operational facilities department to go through this process. So we have a presentation to provide to the board, and I'm going to ask Lisa, do you want to drive?
Okay, so today Lisa and I are going to talk to you a little bit about Leaded School drinking water testing, a little bit about the regulations, some changes that have taken place since the last testing cycle, as well as maybe some frequently asked questions. So one of the things that's important to note is that lead is a common metal that's found in the environment. It is toxic and harmful to human health. It's found in plumbing materials, including pipes and faucets, fittings and valves, and may contain enough lead to contribute to lead in drinking water. Water that stays in contact with lead pipes and or lead solder for extended periods of time can accumulate, and then as a result, water can contain higher levels of lead. The sporadic use of water in fixtures in schools can raise lead levels in school drinking water. It's important to identify and address elevated levels of lead in drinking water to reduce overall exposure of the school community to lead in the environment. Sampling for lead in water informs the district of current lead in water levels and allows the district to put into place corrective measures if any water sources exceed the actionable threshold. In 2016 is when the lead in school drinking water regulation went into effect. It originally went in as an emergency regulation, and school districts across the state did lead in water testing in 2016. In 2018, the regulation was formally adopted. At that time, the action level for lead in school drinking water was 15 parts per billion. In 2021, the governor signed legislation that made some significant revisions to the lead in school drinking water regulation, and that went into effect in 2022. So what's different about this year's testing cycle? So there are several revisions to the regulation that are important to note. The first and most important is that the lead action level in drinking water was reduced from 15 parts per billion to 5 parts per billion. School buildings that were previously deemed lead-free are no longer exempt from testing requirements. And so what that means is that all buildings that house or provide instructional services to students are required to test for lead in drinking water. Additionally, potable water must be provided free of charge. So in the event it's necessary to provide potable water to school occupants following an outlet being taken out of service due to an action level exceedance, that water is provided free of charge. Another revision in the regulation for this testing cycle is that copies of lead results, which include lab reports and any lead remediation plans, must be made available to the public and posted on the school's website. And then finally, compliance testing will occur on a tri-annual, every 3-year schedule. Previously, it was on a 5-year schedule. So let's talk a little bit about the sampling process. So I'll talk about the sampling process and then you can continue. So the sampling process, it's important to understand what the district is looking for. So the regulation talks about applicable outlets. Samples must be collected at all outlets, used or potentially used for drinking or cooking. Those are what's called applicable outlets, and the district reviews its water outlet profile and determines what outlets are applicable that meet the requirements of the regulation. The district identified outlets that meet these requirements. Also, outlets that fall outside the scope of the regulation, or for example, outlets that are not potentially used for drinking or cooking, are accounted for, but they're not sampled during a testing cycle. We call these non-applicable outlets. The sampling process requires that schools take water using an initial first draw method. So what that is you have a water sample, it's collected from a cold water outlet before any water is used from that outlet. The water has to be motionless in pipes for a minimum of 8 to 18 hours before sample collection. The time frame allows for samples to be in contact with the plumbing infrastructure and potentially represent water that would exist in the building during normal operating conditions and would result in a representative of what the water would be like if somebody drank out of it. So, getting the test results. Once the water is sampled and you get the results, if any test results are above 5 parts per billion, the outlet is taken out of service until remediation is performed. There are reporting and notification processes that are implemented, and then after remediation, post-remediation sampling is performed and then reported. The reporting and record keeping requirements are as follows. Once the district receives lab reports, within 1 business day, they must report to the local Department of Health any water outlets that exceeded the 5 parts per billion action threshold. Within 10 business days of receipt of the lab reports, Lab results that exceed 5 parts per billion are reported to all staff, parents, and guardians in writing. Current test results, including any post-remediation results, are reported on the New York State Department of Health, what's called the HERS. It's an electronic reporting system for the Department of Health regarding lead in school drinking water. Within 6 weeks of receipt of lab reports, numeric test results of all lead testing, including lab reports and information about remediation actions, take place and are posted on the school website. The report should remain on the website for the duration of the compliance period, which would be from 2023 through December 31st of 2025. You would expect that any changes to the website would be updates to remediated outlets and things like that. For record keeping, the district must maintain records for 10 years, although there may be other OGS requirements. Okay, we have a frequently asked questions section, which I'll let Lisa take at this time.
All right, so the first one is, how were the outlets selected to be tested for lead? The district followed the New York State Department of Health guidance and determined and tested applicable outlets. Any outlet used or potentially used for drinking or water was tested. This included water outlets located in classrooms or offices that were no longer being used for consumption. Okay. Question 2, what was done when the results were received? The district followed the standard and communicated high lead level results to the local Department of Health. Signage was posted on outlets that tested high for lead in water. The district sent communication to the school community. Additional reporting was submitted to the HERS program. As Hillary stated, it's an electronic response data system. Question number 3, what is the plan for the outlets that tested over the limit? The district followed through with remediation by posting signage on the outlets that tested over the limit for lead. Further remediation is in progress and includes removal of outlets, replacing faucets, and drinking fountains. Question number 4, will the outlets that currently have signage be remediated? Signage is a form of remediation because it's eliminating potential exposure with a particular outlet, okay? However, the district is continuing to investigate and develop an updated remediation plan for the testing cycle. Question number 5, how is the district investigating all this, okay? Investigations involve the following, but not limited to, okay? So that's determining appropriate remediation and retesting outlets after remediation. Question number 6, why are the lead levels high in some outlets but not in others? And Hillary kind of talked about this. There are many factors that may cause high lead levels in outlets. There's corrosion of plumbing materials such as pipes and aerators are often the case. Lead solder of plumbing material, and of course, duration of water sitting in the pipes. Question number 7, how will the district know if the lead levels in the water are safe in the outlets that were not tested? Controls were put in place to prevent consumption for non-applicable outlets. So what is next? We're going to continue to investigate. The district's going to continue to investigate and remediate until exposure is minimized and or eliminated, and provide communication to staff and parents. There is a plan to debrief, because we want to do a debriefing, like what could we do better, what are some improvements that we can make, and this should be done after the completion of testing and remediation, again, to make some improvements for the next testing cycle.
Questions from the board, for sure.
If it's okay, I'd like to ask the first question, and that is, since the last testing cycle, and because some of the numbers are considerably higher, should we have a more frequent testing regimen to ensure that we don't have this situation again where the numbers are very high?
Well, I would say, I won't speak necessarily to the district, but that's part of the review of the test results and the remediation. However, I will say that the objective of the regulation is to do these spot checks. And so it is to catch when lead levels are higher, especially in buildings that have older infrastructure. So with respect to whether you want to test more often, that's probably a conversation that should be had within the district. But the district can make a choice for that. I know that there was a reason that the lead regulation changed from 5 years to 3, but it's specifically to check for higher lead levels. And the idea is to minimize exposure that children in the school community can have from lead in drinking water. Does that answer your question?
I think that's more of an us conversation than a
Yeah,
policies
I think so
conversation, is
too.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so one of the things that, I'm just trying to go back to, one of the things that we are in the process of, there's a reference to a remediation plan, so that's a part of it. So in addition to things such as what you just said, Mrs. Hoffman, about more frequent retesting, even we do it, but need to do it more systemically. For my lack of better word, flushing of systems. So we do, for instance, we know that the district office is a perfect example because our water come from a well source for the most part. And so flushing of systems to a couple of things. One, to minimize corrosion, especially when water sits for a period of time, when schools aren't being in service. So that'll be a yes. I think, Mr. Giuliani, your comment is very appropriate. It is a part of our remediation plan, which we will be having those conversations at some point with the board as well.
Here's a question. In terms of like remediation plans, I guess my question is about the permanence of the remediation itself. Right, so if, for instance, if an outlet comes back, or several outlets come back to have surpassed the threshold one time, and then a remediation plan is put in place, and then the next test rolls around and it's even more, does that suggest that the remediation plan was not necessarily as successful?
The first thing, for instance, I'm going to use a faucet, for example, and we're doing it right now. There are faucets that we change out, and people are trying to think about where is the problem occurring within the quote-unquote line, so to speak. And so the typical piece of it is at the end, at the faucet end of the line. And so when we do that, we retest again. And if it's negligible or none, then we know that their remediation is in fact working. An interesting piece that we're starting to see is, and we're also running this kind of, and I don't want to use the word experiment in the sense that people think we experiment, but we're trying to figure out which type of faucets in terms of brand, where to purchase from, that has a greater tendency to have a read versus another read, because again, we know how faucets are constructed, the soldering otherwise could have a different determination. So back to your piece, before we say something is working, we retest to see if it's working as well. We have situations, and Hillary alluded to it, and I know of one exactly, where we have what is a classroom, but it's used as a conference room, and in that conference room is a sink that's never used because it's a conference room. And
that wouldn't be tested.
Yes, that was tested because we test all sinks in classrooms.
I thought it had to be between 8 and 18 hours.
No, so I'm saying, but so that situation in that sink, that sink has been used. So the piece that we're saying now is the issue corrosion because it hasn't been used.
That was the 1900 level?
I'm not sure. I think that was the one. I'm looking at Bart. Yeah. So back to your point, Tom. So that changing a faucet may not do it, but the question we have is, do we even need a sink in that space because that space is not used at all? So quite frankly, it might just be eliminating that water source in that space. That's a conference room.
Okay. But that, I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, that the samples are only supposed to be taken from outlets that have been used no less than 8 hours and no more than 18 hours previously. Is that
So
correct?
yeah, and the point I'm making though, within that, the issue we have sometimes is corrosion when things sit over a period of time. And you can run the water between 8 and 18 hours, but if things been sitting for a year, you still have a corrosion issue.
Sure.
So that's why we're trying to identify what are those areas that again, we use spaces differently as a result, and so what are those areas that we take offline completely. And just give another example of something this question one was the first one. And we know that, for instance, if you look at a particular building, you'll see fountains, and I know that's a question we have. So within particular elementary classrooms, we have we don't have a lot more, but we had some water fountains. Those water fountains were not used since COVID. In fact, some of them were literally covered up. However, those water fountains were tested. We instead, particularly during COVID, went to a filtered bottle water system where kids actually fill up a bottle versus drinking from a fountain. Those were tested and certainly well below the actionable level. However, we still tested those because they were still existing, even though they weren't being used in those classroom spaces. Over time, we have actually eliminated quite a few water fountains. Particularly during COVID, we eliminated a lot of them because we didn't want the cross-contamination, so to speak, as a result of COVID as well. So to some degree, the testing samples are what the testing samples are. The actionable steps, I think, is what's more important in terms of steps that we have taken to ensure that the kids aren't exposed or water that kids are expected to drink from.
Sure.
Isn't areas that we know have actionable levels as well. And water fountain is one of those. Even in our kitchen, Katie had always been very good about providing water to wash vegetables and things of water outside, bottled water to wash vegetables and things of that nature as well. And even while that's the case, where water is used for other purposes in the kitchen, our objective is still, as I think Hillary pointed out, our objective is to try to figure out where is the potential source of the issue, and then try to remediate that, eliminate that as much as possible. And if we can't, make sure that the proper signage, which is also a remediation piece, is there to say this water is washing. Again, I'm going to point to the district office. If you ever come to the district office, you go into all the bathrooms, there's a sign that this is a hand washing sink. As a result of it, until we switch out and go to municipal water, that's always going to be the case. In that particular situation, right? And so the signage is a part of the remediation piece as well.
You know, your comment about municipal water, all of our buildings aside from district office have municipal water.
I'm
So,
assuming so, yes, either Half Moon or Clifton Park.
okay,
Can I
so
ask a
it's,
question or-
go ahead.
Are you thinking? Okay. Thank you for sending out the physical letters. I
That was a
appreciate it.
chore.
I'm sure. I'm sure it was a hassle because we had to notify so many kids. The carry-on didn't get it yet, but the one did, so that's good.
I'm sorry, I'm to hear last part.
Oh, I said that I don't think the carry-on money went out yet, but the Gowanna one did, so I appreciate it.
Well, I'm surprised it didn't go out today. Between today and tomorrow, I should be out yet.
I have a question for you guys. So prior to the change in the law, were school districts required to post the lab results? Or is that something new as of
So,
December 21?
as of December 21, it was written into the regulation.
It had already been written in the regulation.
Prior to that,
Yeah.
so then the question is,
The question is, when we were tested in 2016 and we were tested in 2021, we were supposed to have posted all that data.
that was a requirement to post to the website, but I believe that in the regulation, the posting of actual lab data hadn't been in there, and that was one of the revisions that was done in 2022, or for effective date of 2022.
Great, thank you. I know you guys, did you be the ones that did the testing in 21?
No.
No, that wasn't you guys. Did you retest in 21? Did you, when you went through the remediation?
But we
Was there
went
any-
to a similar protocol, particularly with areas where we changed our process and things of that nature. Yes, I mean, again, we talk about.
Are the
for
retests
executive
supposed to
specific.
be on the website now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry?
They haven't come back yet.
No, I was talking about 2021.
In 2016, actually 2017, all the data was posted on the website. In 2020, because we did a very similar thing. The law has changed, and we got a clarification about sending home the 10,000 handwritten notice to folks. So can I sit here and tell you where in the sequence we have all that data, and that's the reason why all that data is currently on the website from those 2 years, because we kept all the data. So it was an issue of not having the data. At those points when we went through this process, that information was shared out accordingly in 2017 and again in 2020, because we did it twice since before this point. And so now we have a pretty comprehensive site and pretty easily findable link, if you will, to all that data point from the 3 different testing cycles.
So you retested in 2021 and things looked better.
Some of them we did retest in 2021.
Okay, and things looked better, and now things are not better.
And I think to some degree, I mean, that's the reason why the state is doing this every 3 years, because each year, and quite frankly, after this happened, I started thinking about my own personal house and thinking, I've actually never tested a single thing in my house in 19 years, which is now I'm starting to test those samples as well, because the older house, that's a possibility, right? So yes, that's the reason why the 3-year cycle is important, and that's the reason why Mrs. Hoffman's suggestion, which will, when we look at the remediation plan in terms of having a much more frequent testing or sampling of it, not necessarily the comprehensive testing piece of it, becomes important as well, especially in areas that we see that could be potentially susceptible for those based upon the results that we have.
Right. So in 2021, you got some tests that were over the 15 limit, right? And then you retested, some of them got better, some of them didn't, and you put signs up.
Yeah, there were signs that for not drinking purposes, correct.
Were the signs still up this year?
I would say, I would love the interrogation to
I know,
say.
I was about to say it. feels like
The point I'm making to you.
I'm just saying.
No, the point I'm making to you is that,
What are you saying?
yes, signage were up.
What he said.
Signage were up. I cannot sit here and tell you that for room to room to room, signage were up. That's a standard protocol. And the place that I point to, because I'm in there every day, is the district office, where we have signage up all the time. And so when spaces are repainted, classroom repainted, signage go back up. So that's a constant piece that we have to make sure that we pay attention to. Particularly, again, we're talking about the sinks in classrooms where kids, it's out of the bathroom washing hands as they move forward. So the answer to your question, yes, signage were up. Or is there a situation that on any given day, a sign was down because somebody painted a space? Possible. But signage were up, and that's the expectation, to have signage for areas that we know that were exceeding the actionable level.
Okay, because as long as we're talking about personal experience, I know that you work at the district office. I went to Carrigon almost every week that my kids were at school, and I didn't see a sign. And I drank the water, from the little water fountains. I didn't drink out of the bottled water thing. And in fact, I don't know when those were put in, probably during COVID. So this is obviously just me, I'm just saying. And I think that that's an experience that others have had. Not everyone's experience.
I'm sorry, I think it's a salient point to ask the question. If it's signage is considered a mitigation strategy, that was my sort of question about the permanence, right? If a sign went up, did it stay up, right? I think it's a reasonable.
It's a fair question,
Yeah.
and again, it's a fair question. I'm trying to give a fair answer as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. You don't know. I mean, you learn in all the schools and all the time. I appreciate that. So when you test, I think you were saying that there are some sinks that just don't get used for water, right? Definitely not. I know my kids are lazy, right? I know kids are lazy and they drink water out of whatever sink is available, and they're in the science room, right? Maybe they're in the counselor's office and they use a sink, right? You understand how that could be a possibility, right?
No, I mean,
Right. But we haven't tested on those, have we not? We haven't tested them, or we have, and.
So applicable areas. Go ahead, Bob, come on.
Okay, first of all.
Because I think that the DOH standard is potentially used. God bless.
Okay, so first of all, in Carrigon Arenda, there are no water fountains in the classrooms. We took them all out back in 2020, okay? And so I know that for a fact. The sinks, they were posted back on only the rooms that were affected. Back then it was 15 parts per billion, is that correct? And we posted whatever rooms had that, okay? Come 2024, it's 5. parts per billion. That's a big jump. So a lot of the rooms back in 2020 were not part of being posted. Because they did not, the reg was 15 parts per billion. Right now, all of those rooms now are higher than the 5 parts per billion. Makes sense?
Oh, it will. I mean, as long as you're confirming for me that all of the ones that were, you know.
There were no
done
water fountains right now
Right.
and they haven't been there for 3 years.
I'm talking about the one that's right outside the gym, you know, like when you go
That was
right inside.
posted.
Yeah, that was posted recently.
That was posted recently because before it met
Was
the
it?
standard.
Did it meet the standard, Barb, at that point?
Yes,
Yeah.
back in whenever,
When it was 15.
when 2020, it met the standard. Otherwise, it would have been posted. And right now, it's being replaced by a bottle filling station.
Okay.
I think it may have been already done.
Are you guys
Was it
tracking in
already
water?
done?
Yeah, we worked on it, but
I'm
we
sorry.
gotta, before we start using, it's gotta be retested.
We're gonna retest it before we use it.
So I think that goes to your question you're asking, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, any place that we do physical mitigation to, removing faucets, changing out, we test before we put them online again, because we wanna make sure that it's actually working, the way that it should. So the answer is yes, as well. And again, I think a piece that I really wanna emphasize, and I think this may have, had, and rightfully so, as a parent, I would have similar concerns, is we tested even water fountains that we haven't removed yet, but we know that haven't been accessible to kids' use since COVID. So because we just had those water fountains, and one of the things that we're looking to do is quite frank with you, those water fountains classroom is becoming a very relic to the space and the design, and quite frank with your water leakage and damaging floors and everything else. I would say it's very few still in classrooms. And those aren't. In fact, at Chango, there's been some creative ways of covering up the top of them to make sure kids can't even turn them on.
So that's what you're doing, that's why you call them inaccessible, are they?
Yeah, exactly. So eventually we're gonna take all those out because we're moving more and more because quite frankly, your people are either having water bottles like you see over here or having other pieces, and so we have a more filling station to have access to that piece of it. We always have, and even before, the law talks about having water access in cafeterias for, quite frankly, the kids who don't have a filling bottle, so to speak, making sure those things happen. And certainly with the new law, we'll have bottles of water readily accessible as well, so to making sure that that's available for a person or staff who doesn't necessarily have a bottle to fill up on any given day.
So I just want to say that this conversation I think is really illuminating and helpful, and I think I have 2 questions that came out of all the information that came out, and then also seeing some of the comments of the public and what I've heard from neighbors and other people. But I think just hearing today a couple of things, I really think, just from a communication standpoint, there's some good things we might be able to say more clearly, and I think it might just be helpful to get people comfortable, right? Because I think there's a lot of worry and fear. It's a scary thing. We're talking about lead in water, right? You can lead anywhere around kids. But some of the things we're hearing today, for example, like we did the test in 21 and we took out all those water fountains, right? So one of my questions was, can we just get rid of some of these sources, right? We're saying nobody drinks out of them.
Correct.
And we have repeat offenders, right? And here's the other thing I want to say. We've got old buildings. I think the other point here is we've got old buildings. Just like anywhere everyone works somewhere, construction goes on, there's asbestos abatement, there's stuff around because we don't knock things down whenever we find the substance and rebuild everything. We can't do that, right? So we have to deal with this stuff. The question is, when we see something, what do we do about it, right? That's something you say all the time, right? Forget what's the problem, but how do we move forward from it? So something like that, crystal clear, is very easy, I think, for the public to understand. We yanked it out of the wall, right? We soldered that faucet shut. No one's using the sink, no one's drinking out of the sink, so we get rid of it. So I think I would just put forward whatever we're doing from a remediation standpoint, especially where we're closing things off like that, we should scream that from the mountaintops as clearly as possible. And even, I would say, if we could do something with you know, we have a lot of lists of room and numbers and, you know, faucet 22 and this and that, nobody knows what that means. But if you could say, you know, some way to translate it in a real, you know, something that parents could picture, I think that would go a long way. Then even like you just said, we got water, we're making water available, right? That's not clear, that doesn't come across yet, but it's so easy for us if we could say 3 things. We're pulling stuff out of the wall so people can't even get to the source. We're putting up new filters, and there's other filters, those have been tested, they filter out lead. Everyone's walking around with 50 water bottles anyway in their stupid Stanleys, they go fill them up. And then 3, we're providing water with it, right? So I would just put that forward. We're gonna have a remediation plan, I hope it's, I don't know the length of time, I hope it's sooner rather than later, I know there's the 6 weeks, but I would say, bring that back and put that out, put that on the site, just to say things like, here's where we slam the door shut on these things. Like the example from 2021, because that's a question I'll say I had. How have things changed, right? Are things getting worse? I still want to talk about Arenda and Carrigon, because that seems like a hotbed, right? But are things getting worse? Did remediation work? So I mean, if we can point those things out clearly, I think that would help people just, you know, be able to walk back from this, right? For example, hey, we saw this, like, best story, we saw something in 21 that showed up, we did some remediation, guess what, it didn't show up in 24, right? That's a win, and that's something, you know, if we could point that out, that shows remediation works, we've done the right things. In a case where it got worse, then we could, if we can show like, you know, yeah, we blocked it off. I would say signage, probably not enough unless there's something more permanent, because I've heard the signs fall down, people don't pay attention. I mean, I get it meets the requirement, but you know, maybe we could do something a little stronger. Covering it, that's good. I mean, an obstacle, even if it's just a covering, I think that's helpful. But to me, I think just seeing what I've heard, it's, and this is always the challenge with anything like this, information goes out, there's room, there's not enough information, and it's easy to speculate, and look, there's scary numbers, right? And look, the numbers have to go out, and I know it's gotta be reported, but it doesn't say, I don't think we're at the remediation just yet, we don't have the retesting, but even saying this is what happened last time, and this, you know, reminders, that helps, I think, take the temperature down. And again, all of this, the proof is in the pudding, so whatever our remediation is, we're gonna be able to say, we remediated all these, and this is how we know it's okay. You know, that scary 1910 one, we soldered it shut, right? Whatever, I don't even know where that is, but
Yeah.
does that, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense, these are
Yeah.
frank conversations we've had today, you know.
Yeah, and so I do think the communication of that though, and just direct and clear, and again, owning it, right? I mean, I don't think it's wrong for us to acknowledge that we're gonna find stuff like that anytime we do anything, right? Anytime we do construction, we find stuff we gotta deal with, but we handle it, and that's what's important. So I'm excited, I'm really looking forward to whatever the remediation plan is and the outcome, and we should try and get that on the calendar, and like I said, we should be screaming that from the mountaintops, because that's the answer, that's the good news, right? Yay, we did it. So I would put that out there. The last thing I would just ask too is, what do we do about Carrigon Arenda? Because that seems to be like, there's a lot there. That seems to be a bigger, you know, those are joint buildings, and they really, they're flashing, right?
Right, so first of all, what we did is we did post all of the sinks. In the classroom, there are only sinks.
Yeah.
It is for washing hands. The signs are up, so that's because the bathrooms are so small, they have no sinks in them.
Right.
So that's what there are signs there. Second of all, we started remediating the kitchen because we had faucets in there that were high. So what we did is we pulled those out, we put new ones in, and we retested those. So we are waiting for the results, for them to come back. Once we have them, then if it is the faucets, we'll go forward with replacing faucets. And then we retest again.
And is that something we found in the past, like faucets were a problem and we've retested?
Faucets have always been a problem. But the problem, I guess, back in 2020, if they didn't come out with a regulation, it would still be 15 parts per billion, correct?
If they hadn't changed it, that's correct.
If they hadn't changed it, so we would have been, you know, right now it's 5. So that's a big difference. Just thinking it through, we would have never known if they didn't come up with a new regulation also, if you think it through. So.
Right, but I mean, a lot of these were
Yeah.
well over
Yes, they were,
15.
right.
I mean, that's a concern.
Pardon?
I mean, that's always a concern,
Yeah.
like, we're not talking about.
I'm not saying that it's
Yeah.
not, It is a concern.
And
And we
I
are
get that
trying
it's,
very hard,
you know,
you know, we're doing the best we can right now, we're waiting for the testing.
and if the faucets aren't the problem, then what?
Then we have to go to the next level.
Right.
So give you maybe 7 years back, we call it North and South. That's what we call it, elementary school on campus, Caravan, Arena, Scano, Tasago. A lot of infrastructure changing our pipes in the buildings. Because again, back to Jason's point, older pipes, changing our pipes. So the reason I'm saying that is so as we go through this process, if we find out, okay, it's not on the head end, then where is the issue, right? So we're doing a couple things as we speak. This one fly just want to bother me. We're looking at the head end where the water's coming out. Then we're also looking at the entry points to try to figure out, okay, if one of those gives us some indication, then we know where the remediation starts and stops, so to speak. And if it's something else, then we have to have a plan to see how do we address that. And until that point, we put appropriate signage that is for hand washing only until we have, depends on the scale of the magnitude of that piece of it. So again, the big part of it is largely, in most of it's largely elementary schools because elementary schools have more water sources within classrooms. And so the most immediate concern is one that we have addressed, and quite frankly, COVID was a stimulus of it, was in fact water fountains, where places are designed for kids to drink from, and those were eliminated, and the filtered bottle piece has been a tremendous piece of it as well. The piece that we're even looking at now is how do we even add more of those within buildings so they're much more accessible. And so that's not a remediation plan, it's an accessibility plan. So that's the first point, pinch point, right? The second piece now is.
Could it be part of the remediation plan?
Say it again?
Could
Yeah,
it
it
be
will be,
part, right? I mean,
yeah.
Because I mean, that even helps us, right? If we
Correct.
just say, forget all those,
Correct.
here's.
Correct, all that would be articulated, for sure.
Have them closer to a classroom.
The second pinch point that we're looking at now is what's common, hand washing sinks in rooms. And so in those situations, if changing out of the head end is the solution, certainly we're doing it now and we retest it. But again, we just don't want to have a blind, let's take a chance to see if this happens. That's why the retesting of different areas, and also literally also with different brand of faucets is important, because we want to find out then, is it a function of what we're purchasing or not purchasing? So I'm saying it to the degree of length that we're really trying to investigate to try to figure out that sequence. And so within this 6-week period is where the investigation is taking place, and we will have more information to share out as well. And that's why we're having this conversation here, is making sure that, again, I appreciate conversation I had with Jason and Naomi board leadership last week, and having this conversation here is important because I think there is conclusions drawn, and it's not about right or wrong conclusions drawn. And so now how do we provide that information and context for the community, which we will. And again, there's a process to that. First, we have to satisfy our legal communication pieces, right? The mandatory pieces, which we did, which included the 9,400 letters that were developed and went out, will be going out today and tomorrow. And then a piece that we started working on today included members of DOH and Saratoga County on a pretty comprehensive call today, was in fact talking about all these things, making sure that everyone's on the same page as we move forward.
Can I ask one more question, just to wrap
Sure.
up? Is it fair to say, because what I'm hearing you say is that you're gonna remediate till you get it right? Does that sound right?
That's the goal, and if what can't be remediated, signage is a remediation. And then the piece is more permanent signage if something has to be done. You're correct.
Can you also clarify the time frame? Because it was my understanding that the 6 weeks kicks in once the testing results are available.
But I mean, Hillary, you probably, I'm sorry, I'm not going to profess.
Yeah, it's upon receipt of the lab results is when the 6 weeks goes
Correct.
into effect.
Okay, and so we still have more buildings to test, like Arajan and
We're waiting for test
Scano
results.
and.
I believe
we're
those
waiting.
have been sampled and they're waiting for test results to come back.
Okay, and I know that a letter went out for High School West, and so that one's a different timetable. So there's just gonna be this rolling schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different timeframes based upon when we get the results back, right?
Okay, and so I guess the clock starts ticking when that initial document goes out. Okay, so April 25th was the first, correct?
I mean, some.
Actually, I'm not aware of the timelines.
Okay.
I can speak to what the reg says.
Well, I'm only asking for clarification because that was one of the questions that was asked of me. You know, how do we, when will more information become
So,
available?
I mean, just roughing the thing about timeframes, I would say we probably have about 4 weeks or 4.5 weeks on the long end, and it depends on the ones that's coming, on the short end, I'm sorry. And probably, we haven't gotten the ones that we haven't gotten back yet, so that clock will tick at some points. So that's the time frame that we're looking at now, and that's the reason why we're going through this process, to try to turn around time. In fact, we're even looking at some additional testing places so we get information faster. Because you have to remember, everyone else is gonna start doing the same thing, and that process, so our expected turnaround time is 10 days, if I'm not correct, in the piece for the testing agency.
Yeah, actually, so once the samples get to the lab, generally the lab results are reported within 10 days. That's what the vendor has said.
And so,
Is
and
it
then
the same vendor that did both sets?
yeah, we got one vendor now, but now because we know that these vendors are getting bogged down, we're looking at some other pieces to make sure we can do retests faster and some of these things faster, so we can have more information out there faster. More information for us, as we look at some of the mitigation steps, the physical mitigation steps, not necessarily signage mitigation steps.
Yeah. And one more question on the remediation, and I'm gonna ask the regulatory expert because I don't know the answer to this. But I think it says that remediation of signage is in conjunction with supervision and education, right? So in addition to signage, we're also supervising and educating, and the teachers are telling the kids, right? Because some of the kindergartners can't read, or I don't know what the sign looks like, right? Because that's the package of remediation when it comes to signing, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, one, thank you. This isn't a topic it's a complex topic in the sense that there are assumptions, there are different pieces of laws and information shared at different times and things of that nature. So certainly as a school district, our objective is never to shy away from an issue. Our objective is to try to understand it and then try to put the best steps forward to solve it. And we know that when you hear things like lead in water, same thing, quite frankly, I go back far back now where asbestos used to be the big thing. And so we do asbestos mitigation now, par for course. Anytime we do anything, there's a mitigation aspect to that as well. So certainly the steps that are taken in 2024 are much intentional, as they should be, than steps were taken in 2017 when the regulations came out. As I said, just even today, just having the benefit of having several representatives from DOH, they were great, New York State DOH, kudos to that group. And a representative from Saratoga County, kudos to the lady who was on the call, so we got on the same page. They were reinforcing a lot of stuff they were doing. They were giving us ideas of some stuff. And quite frankly with you, I anticipate too that they'll be looking at some of our plans that we come up with to share those plans out with other systems that will be doing testing. Hillary, the deadline is like, what's the time window for people to test by?
You're talking the testing cycle?
Yeah.
It's January 1st of 2023 all the way through December 31st of 2025. That's this cycle.
So we anticipate that some of the information that we gather from this will be a great resource to other folks as well. And also the benefit of, so Lisa is our on-site person from BOCES. And so Lisa's here. Hillary is the overseer, so to speak, program manager of that. So the reason why I'm sharing that is because that collaborative piece is important, because the conversations we're having here, Shen, I'm sure, and certainly Hillary has permission to have those same conversations. I'll give you a perfect example. We're using a template that another school district that Hillary's working from used, that's consistent with the DOH piece, that we use that template to, quite frankly, to reface our entire website. And that template wasn't available in 2020. And so now it's there, so now why not use it to reface what we have on the website? So again, I share that because I don't want any parent or otherwise to think that we, one, don't take this seriously. We do, and that's the reason why we go through all the steps. And two, our first and foremost, particularly going back, I'm going back to COVID because that was our first point where we ran into a situation that we have to minimize where kids drink from, that we've taken a lot of steps and invest a lot of resources, to provide alternatives to those pieces. And we will continue to do so in lockstep measure. Already, I know we have different water fountains on order right now, the filtered ones on order. As soon as those things come in, we'll be putting them in place and move forward as well. But until then, we'll be, if necessary, have water available for youngsters who wants to fill their standing mug with bottled water. And I just called Mr. DeJohn.
My fault.
No.
So again, thank you, I appreciate it, I appreciate the board, and I hope that those who are listening, understand what we're trying the message we're trying to relay. More information will be coming as we go through this whole mitigation process to share out with the community that posts on our website, as well. So I think those things are important because people need to be able to see information and see the progression of how things are evolving, as well. And I would end with this, if there's a parent that's concerned, please do send your child in with water. And if that's a financial hardship for you, please let us know, let your building principal know. We'll be more than happy to provide your child, and quite frankly with you, this is what we buy for the district, through whatever massive contract that we have water purchase from. So please do, because we never want you or your child to feel uncomfortable. And certainly we don't want to have a young person go throughout the course of the school day not drinking because of concerns. So absolutely, I certainly want to emphasize that point as well.
Thank you. This is really important. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Lisa, and also Barb, and being here tonight, sharing this information, answering our questions. It's really important. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but this helped me better understand. I do appreciate taking this very serious. I mean, we take clean water for granted, but you always have to be paying attention, and it's developing minds and bodies. So we really appreciate your diligence to make sure that we can, as best as possible. I know we still have to talk about a remediation plan, but eliminating this, because lead is poison. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. The last two items here, I wasn't planning to sort of walk through them. I know the resolution, I don't know if the board want to talk about the resolution process, because that's right now there. I'm looking at both, we did it last year.
It'll be quick.
So I'll leave that to you.
Conversation.
Okay.
Every year, NISBA encourages boards of education to propose resolutions that will be voted on in the fall. If any of you have a resolution that you have close to your chest that you haven't told anybody about yet, now's the time, because we would like to get them in to us so that the board can vote on them as a group by at the end of June, is what we're deciding?
We're talking about June.
Right, because that resolution needs to get forwarded on to NISBA by July 12th. And then it goes through their process and gets reviewed by their committees. And then it's either, it's approved by them or not, but either way, it'll go up for a vote. So if you have anything that you would like to add, I think you've all gotten the email.
In the kit.
Yeah.
But the link is to that kit, so you can always access it there as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because they asked several questions of board members in the spring. I'm amused to see that 7% of board members responded. I don't know whether we thought it was a spam question or not, like nobody opened up the email, but I think these are important questions. If you get one of those in the future, definitely make an opinion known, because these are opinions that NISBA is going to be using moving forward. And they're on important things like school lunches or budgets or how much money we get, and so thank you.
All real issues, and it's our way of affecting policy at the state level. So it starts there. It goes through the process in the fall. They actually vote on them after they've had an opportunity to read all that's been submitted, and then they advocate in Albany. They're going to share it. Dr. Robinson will have an opportunity to also weigh in. So this it seems like it's a long process, but we're on the front end of it now, and really our window's tight, so it's good to respond. It could be anything. It could be pre-K funding. It could be anything that we just put together they have guidance for how to put it together, and then we move it forward, and also how to defend it, etc. But thank you, Petra. So that was a 30-second overview of NISBA resolutions. And so we're going to move into the consent items.
Yes, I just want to remind again, please look at the board dates. If there are blatant conflicts that we missed, let us know.
I did notice
Again, it follows similar pattern. I understand that somebody may miss a date, you know, it's blatant stuff that, oh, wow, we shouldn't have it on that date because of that type thing, so please.
I propose the meeting should be like 4 hours longer than proposed here.
Okay.
Bet you do.
You're
but
leaving,
Just saying,
right?
if
You're
you-
leaving.
Yeah,
You're
you
leaving.
guys don't
Yeah.
mind.
But also, I wanted to also mention that the NISBA conference is earlier this year. It's in New York City, but it's earlier. It's
Correct.
October 20th through 22nd.
And it's also now Sunday to.
Is that what the 20th
They
is?
flipped it. Instead of going from Wednesday to Sunday, it's the opposite.
So it's like a Sunday to a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Okay. Okay, so that's the calendar for the year. It's, you know, it's pretty standard stuff. Our retreat is also, that we typically have is in August. I think we do have 3 meetings in August. I have to look at that again. But, and the reorg meeting in July. And with that, anything else
As I said,
before we move into consent
I
items?
was just checking the date for the NISBA. It is Sunday to Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, so the first item up, A, Treasurer's Report. Can I have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report for the period ending March 31, 2024? Deanna's first. Tom is second. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Motion approved. The minutes, I'm going to actually roll them all together. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for the meetings of April 9th, April 23rd, and April 24th? First is Petra, second is Tom. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. The motion for the minutes have been approved. Moving into our action items, A, business items. Can I have a motion to approve the appointment of the Chief Inspector of Elections and Inspector of Election? First is Deanna, second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Jason, that is 5 in favor. Motion approved, thank you. Next item, number 2. Can I have a motion to approve the 4 bids for high school science supplies, interscholastic sports supplies, middle school supplies, and physical education supplies? First is Tom, second is Jason. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor, the motion is approved. Number 3, can I have a motion to approve the capital project change order? This is for labor and materials needed to install the 4-inch sanitary lines at the middle school. First is Deanna, second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor, motion approved. Number 4, can I have a motion to approve the capital project phase 2 contract award? This is for 3. This is for the field turf contract and the AstroTurf contract, correct? Yes.
Yeah, and the tennis courts.
And the tennis courts, yes. Can I have a motion? First is Tom. Second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. The motion is approved. Thank you. So we're going to move to 5, which is contracts. The first up, a little I. Can I have a motion to approve the IMS contract CH20? And this is, this helps strengthen our cybersecurity. CB, oh, I'm sorry, what did I say?
CB.
Sorry, CB20. I should always put my glasses on. First is Tom. Second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Motion is approved. Thank you. The next item up, just want to make sure I'm reading these right. Oliver, Dr. Robinson, can you scroll that? Just want to make sure. I had to modify because there were some changes to the agenda today. Okay, yes. All right, so the next item up is the Questar 3 contract. And I had brought this up earlier that it had not been run by the audit committee. However, we do have 2 board members that serve on that audit committee, and they did, we did talk about this earlier, and they felt it was fine to keep it on the agenda because we always use Capital Region, the Questar 3 BOCES, because of the value that they bring for this program. Just wanted to share that. So with having said that, can I have a motion to approve the Questar 3 BOCES contract for internal auditing services? First is Petra, second is Jason. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. The motion is approved. Thank you. Okay. Am I on to the, okay, special education, yeah. Can I have a motion to approve the special education EIUS LLC, also known as LearnWell? First is Deanna, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. The motion is approved. Thank you. Next up, number 4. Can I have a motion to approve the Tyler Technologies contract? First is Tom, second is Deanna. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. The motion is approved. Number 5. Can I have, okay, this was the new one that was added. Can I have a motion to approve the contract with Field Turf for the middle school bleachers? First is Jason, second is Deanna. Any comments or questions?
Just a question, there's, which side, do you know? Is it the
Probably-
street side?
So probably gonna do both.
Both sides?
And I said probably right now because we have
Yeah.
to see what the landscape look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that answer even better. On behalf of, student athletes and those who watch them, thank you for this. This
Yes,
is-
they have a place.
I was thinking about more so the grandparents who's trying to stand up against the fence by the person.
Aw,
Yeah,
thinking of
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? It is 5 in favor, motion approved, thank you. We're moving on to
Try it.
Triad, yes, okay. Can I have a motion to approve the Triad contract? This is for workers' comp insurance. First is Tom, second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor, the motion is approved. 7, can I have a motion to accept the scholarships and local grant donations with appreciation? First is Petra, second is Jason. Comments or questions? And then we're very grateful for these. Every month we have these to recognize. All in favor? It is 5 in favor, and they are accepted and approved. Thank you. The next item up is the CTE resolution, and this goes back to the presentation made by Dr. Wilson Chase and Mrs. Barra. Could I have a motion to endorse the CTE resolution and the designated CTE pathways?
You said Wilson Chase, for the record.
Did I say Wilson
Turner.
Chase? Wilson Turner.
They have to be
sorry.
sitting next to each other.
Created like a super administrator.
So that's a power team right there. First is Tom. Second is Deanna. Any comments or questions? Yay. All in favor? It is 5 in favor, the motion is approved.
Thank you, good job.
So we're gonna move, Mrs. Mylott is coming up to talk about the special education.
Yes, good evening. We have recommendations tonight from the committees on preschool and school age special education for 23-24 and 24-25.
Thank you. With that, can I have a motion to accept the special education placements? First is Deanna, second is Tom. All in favor? It is 5, it's unanimous. Thank you, the motion is approved. Thank you, Mrs.
Dr.
Mylott.
Wilson Turner's going to do this one.
Now, Dr. Wilson Chase Turner. We'll come up with the staffing recommendations. Thank you.
Good evening. So you have your staffing recommendations before you, and we just want to highlight our retirements with appreciation. Our retirements total 112 years combined. And this evening here in person, we have Miss Cynthia De Robertis, who's retiring after 30 years. In addition, we have Nadia Stadnik, Patricia Davenport, Susan Manalopoulos, Michelle Schweda, John Serafilippi, and Teresa Urban. So we thank them all for their service.
Thank you. And Cynthia, 30 years, wow, that's really impressive.
38 altogether, but who's
38.
counting?
No, it's in the report as 30, so wow.
It does, but
Okay.
fire service.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And so I'll just list all the names. Congratulations to Cynthia, Nadia, Patricia, Susan, Michelle, John, Teresa. 112 years of combined service is really impressive. You'll always be part of our family. Wish you all the best as your journey continues. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the staffing recommendations? First is Deanna, second is Tom. Any comments or questions, or additional comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5, it's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you again, Cynthia. So Mrs. Carmen's coming back for the second reading of policies and procedures.
Yes, being presented for second reading tonight are the policies that went for first reading last month. Any questions regarding any of those?
Thank you. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the policies and procedures set forth tonight in the second reading? First is Deanna, second is Jason. All in favor? It is 5 in favor, the motion is approved. Thank you. Number 8, the public comment section. This is our second opportunity for the public to comment. Is there anyone who wishes to make a
We
comment?
have one lady who said last time.
Please.
Hi, I'm Janelle Palermo. I have a kindergartner in Arenda, and I also will have an incoming kindergartner in 25. Thank you for addressing the lead water. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for going over the lead water results. I do have a couple questions. So for the test results, I mainly focused on Arenda because that's where my children are. As far as the laboratory reports, I felt it like not every result had a description of the source. So I guess I got more concerned about the water fountains. I know that we are being told that they are within normal limits or acceptable limits, say, because there's no safe water lead consumption. There isn't. So I guess that's one question that I don't know if anybody has the answer to or can provide more insight. Another question was the full lab reports. The Excel document looks beautiful, but I can make a beautiful Excel document. It doesn't have the lab name and the date.
There's a link on the website for that.
It has the list of the results but it did not have the lab name.
So, if you don't mind, if you have time in your schedule, I would actually love to have you sit down with our folks and address that specific, only because not having that in front of me is kind of hard to respond to those. But all the information that we're supposed to have is there just a matter of accessing and finding, so certainly.
It just looked like it was cropped, so.
No, there's actual lab, PDF of the lab report is also on the website.
Okay.
But we certainly.
I also want to say the Excel spreadsheet came
From the lab.
We didn't do it.
Exactly.
Okay. The other question is, as far as the water fountain filter replacement, what does that procedure look like? I also have a younger sibling in Acadia that did have an issue at one point where the filter was not replaced, and when she looked up after she drank her water and it tasted funny, it did have a red filter mark, like the red filter. I don't know if that is in all of the schools, because it's not something that my daughter as a 6-year-old knows to look for at a water fountain. So I am interested in what those standard operating procedures are, especially if we are having these high lead water tests when those filters are not running adequately. What are we really looking at as far as their lead consumption?
Can you make sure Mrs. Ford has your contact information so we can follow up? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you again.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, you're
overstep.
fine. Thank you, Jill. Okay. Yes.
Hi, my name is Darlene McGraw. There's a couple things I wanted to follow up with too. I wanted to let you know after you guys spoke about the CTE programs and stuff like that, through my life lessons and I call it lifelong training that I've been through, because I did not go to high school. I ended up getting my GED because of my health. I recently graduated from the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneur Boot Camp. I wanted to let you guys know that that is one option that your students here have once they graduate here, and if they want to start their own business and learn how to do things, because there's many businesses here that can help them learn how to succeed if they want to become an entrepreneur and learn how to start their own business and get on their feet. The other thing is too, please let your students know, what are they affiliated with? And I always say, if you have lemons, make lemonade. If you got a problem, make it something good. Turn it into a positive thing. You know, I have epilepsy, so I make that into a positive thing. So I actually got a scholarship before because of epilepsy. So if you have students that are affiliated with anything, you know, the Elks Club, if they have family members there, you know, try to find out what scholarships are available. Let them know, have them search through different things. There's still things that are available, and have them start searching early in September, right when they start coming to school, and all year round. Have them search and talk with people about that. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys with, I hate talking about emergencies, but the traffic here. I hate saying this, but it's chaos. There's accidents all over here in Clifton Park, but would we know what to do in an emergency if something was to happen on this campus and we were told to leave now? Now, when this campus is full-fledged in school, we had everybody here, all the teachers, all the students, all the other staff, and we were told we had to leave right now. Everybody had to be off this main campus right now. You have 5 minutes or less to get off this campus. Would you know what to do? Would you know what to do in an emergency? Please, think about that. And if you say no, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to get off this campus. Then there's a problem with that, because you know what? I wouldn't know what to do and how to get off this campus in a flash like that. We need to make sure we know how to get off this campus. Work with the town, the county, the state officials, and everybody we can. Because I hate saying this, it could happen here, and we gotta stop thinking that NIMBY attitude. Not in my backyard, because it could happen anywhere. I don't want it to happen here, but it could, and we gotta be prepared. It's better to be too prepared than not prepared enough. Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you, Darlene. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and speak? Seeing no one approach the podium, I'm going to close the second comment period. So thank you all. And go into the for good of the order. And this is an opportunity for board members to discuss salient district-related matters from a policy perspective, or to just give a shout out.
Just before the board members comment, I just want to, since they're here, thank you for staying.
Yes.
Hillary and Lisa, and you know, and I said it to them today, that yes, I tremendously appreciate them coming to this meeting. Appreciate the work that they've been doing with Barb and Ned and some of the folks, particularly on this issue. But I really want to emphasize that point, because I think sometimes when people, and I know both Lisa and Hillary were saying, hey, that's part of our job, that's what we do. But when people literally go beyond the call of duty to be present, to address a matter that's important to the organization and that's consistent with the role that they play in terms of the services that we rely on them from both sides, I think it's worthwhile saying thank you both. And I'll be myself trying to find out who's the right person to send a love note to again express my gratitude on behalf of both of you, because oftentimes people do great work and it's not noticed. People go beyond the call of duty and no one says anything. But certainly I really appreciate you. And I know both of you probably made some sacrifice. I know you made some sacrifice with your kids and games to be here today. And I really appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you both very much for being a part of this. And these are challenging issues, but when we know that we have people committed to come out with the best resolution, that's something that we should all acknowledge and celebrate. So thank you both.
Okay, so with that, does anyone have something they'd like to share? No? I do. I always do. First, I want to shout out to Dr. Robinson for the recent NISBA article on the value of school public relations, a superintendent's perspective. It's actually a great picture with the students too, so thank you for that.
And kudos to Kelly, who's a collaborator on that too.
Oh,
so.
actually, he does cite you in the article too. Yes. Anyways, it's really
Good
well
team,
done.
good
Thank
team.
you. Good team effort. I also wanted to give a shout out to, Mrs. Bear was talking here and talking about CTE, and we were both at the CTE signing day earlier. It's such an exciting event, but specifically I want to shout out to 3 of our students who signed with local companies. Riley Trudell, she's a senior, I believe she's a manufacturing student, correct? That's what she does for BOCES. She signed with Global Foundries today, and Stephen Naradke, diesel technology student, he signed with Kenworth and blew me away with swag. A team of people showing up with gifts to bear. And then Lillian White, she's a cosmetology student, she signed on with Grit and Grace Salon Boutique. So that's very exciting to see these students actually sign on with these companies and to be recognized in this way. And it's also a really nice celebration. There was also a proclamation that was issued today that really made this week CTE week, recognizing essentially the vocational program, all that's been accomplished through the apprenticeship as well. And then finally, I wanted to mention, in our Friday bulletin, Dr. Robinson mentioned our board self-evaluation process. And I've shared a copy, well, many months back, but he also shared a link to that in the Friday bulletin. And as he mentioned in his statement, the intent is to use that as a guide, not to walk through everything because it's going to take some time. But for that reason, we set a date, May 28th, and after the board meeting instead of prior to the meeting, so that people can be there. Again, this is a guide, more to come. The guide is meant to be more reflective with the conversation. So that's just an update for that. It's going to be here before we know it. Hopefully there'll be some food or something for us afterwards. I'll bring the food. But with that, I'll wrap up for good of the order, unless anybody has some comments about that.
Just a reminder to vote.
Oh, yes. That's absolutely. The vote is fast approaching, 2 weeks away, so please get out and vote. As Jason and others mentioned, there is a concern that, because there's no big talking points this year, that the turnout will be low, but we're hoping that won't be the case. Item number 10 is the BOE policy review schedule, which Mrs. Carmen presents those policies at each of the meetings, and the presentation schedule, which is really the outline of all of our meetings. And with that, I'll move on to motion or number 11, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? First is Jason, he's always first, and second is Tom. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great night.